Hello, everyone. Today I'm talking to Doreen Brown, who is the owner of Doreen Brown Consulting. Hello, Doreen. How are you?
I'm well, Tony. How are you?
Good, thank you. And thank you for giving me your time in order to engage in this conversation about entrepreneurship and your journey with it.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here, and thank you for having me, yes, on your segment, on your show.
Thank you. And can we get on to the first question?
Sure.
Doreen, can you please share a little about yourself, the place you were born, your education, your passion, the things that you enjoy doing, and one thing that the public might not know about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Melbourne. I was born many years ago, over 40 years ago, in Carlton in Melbourne. My parents migrated from Malta and moved to Australia in the late 70s. And then I was, born in Melbourne once they moved, from Malta to Australia. My background in education, so I ended up doing my degree in psychology and sociology. And, originally I wanted to move into becoming a counsellor or a therapist and helping people that way, because I honestly do feel and believe that I was put here in order to help and support other people. So when I completed my third year of uni, I realised pretty quickly that, I wasn't suitable for that role, because I couldn't quite separate myself from the emotional, part of it. So when we did practical placement and we started to do some sessions, I quickly realised I wasn't going to be very helpful because I was too emotional and couldn't separate myself, from situations. So I ended up moving into training and consulting. And did that for about 15 years with the insurance industry. So I worked with companies like AAMI Insurance, Australian Pensioners Insurance, and larger corporations where, I supported people through that training and development role. One thing you may not know about me was that I used to play the drums in a heavy metal cover band.
Wow.
So we used to play Metallica, Metallica songs, and I used to be on the drums, drumming away in that, and used to absolutely love it. I love anything to do with music, dancing, all those types of things. So yes, way back when I used to use the drums and do that in my spare time.
Good on you, Doreen. Good on you. And thanks for sharing that with the world, because someone might ring you up and,
Yeah, they might want a demo.
Good on you, man. Good on you.
Yeah.
And moving on to the next one, Doreen, can you please share about your work experience prior to starting your venture? I believe you touched on that in our first question, but can you elaborate that a bit more, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I launched my own business, I, as mentioned, worked in the corporate sector in training and consulting and development and those types of areas. And it was predominantly with the insurance and financial services industry. So through that role, I got quite a lot of, experience in working, with teams, in working with other people. But then I started my own family. So after having my second child, I decided to move away from the corporate world and wanted to do something more that was online specific, which is how I got into, the SEO and websites and online space. So before I launched my own business that I'm running now, I worked with a digital marketing agency who were based in Sydney, and I worked with them for 5 years. So when I started working with them, it was a very entry-level position because even though I'd had, that work experience prior to joining them, I didn't really know that much about digital marketing 8.5 years ago. So when their agency closed down, instead of applying for another job, I decided I can do this for myself. We were fully distributed, so I was already working from home for 5 years, and it was just an opportunity that I saw to be able to, run my own business and do my own thing.
Good on you, mate. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Thank you.
Okay.
And moving on to the next one, Doreen, can you please tell me When did you start Doreen Brown Consulting, and what was the
Yes.
inspiration behind this entrepreneurial venture? And I believe you touched on this in the previous question, but if you could elaborate a bit more, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was nearly 3 years ago. So it would have been in June of 2017. I received an email of Monday morning, to say that the agency I worked for had closed down, and they'd gone into, receivership, and I no longer had a job. So it was really just a kind of aha moment for me, where I just went, okay, well, let me have a go at this and let me see if I can launch my own business and, do a similar type of role. But I guess the main purpose and passion behind what I do is working with small to medium businesses. In working with that agency, what I found was a lot of our, customers and clients were those larger companies, larger corporations, and the little guys weren't really getting the same knowledge and help and support that, companies with big marketing budgets were getting. So I guess my real purpose, was to help, small to medium-sized businesses get access to the same knowledge and information that the larger corporations and businesses had been, getting due to marketing budgets and things like that.
Good on you, Doreen. It almost sounded like the opportunity presented itself, you know what I mean? And you grabbed hold of it.
That's how I feel. I feel like the universe came knocking on my door. It was something I had thought about, and it was something I wanted to do for probably 12 months before I lost my job. Mm-hmm. So when it did happen, it was almost like, okay, well, this is your moment. This is your opportunity. I'm giving it to you. This is what you've said, that you want. So now have a go and see, what becomes of that.
Good on you. Thank you. Very, very encouraging. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Doreen, moving on to the fourth question, could you please share about your unique product offerings and that which is a standout with your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want to be the master of all things. I would rather just specialize in one particular area, which is SEO or search engine optimization. So I guess when you're running a digital marketing agency or consulting business, sometimes it's assumed that because you're in that particular area or space that you do everything. So you do social media, you do paid ads, you do email marketing, you do all of these different things. But what I really want to do is specialize in one particular area so that, I can be that specialist for that particular topic. And when a small business owner is looking for that support, they can come to me, directly for that. So it's cutting out a bit of the noise because each marketing channel, as we know, has a purpose and has an intention. And I'm about, maximising people's time and budget. So something like SEO is organic, meaning it's free marketing. Yes, you have to invest your time in either learning how to do it and then implementing it for your business, or you may outsource, that particular component if you do have a marketing budget. But SEO is organic or free marketing. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's really a no-brainer that, every business should be looking into that for their online presence, because they're not having to bid on keywords in order to show up in Google, to be found by their, audience. It's something that you can implement and do, and it's not going to disappear by turning off a particular, button like you do with paid campaigns. So having a mixture of those different marketing channels is definitely something I recommend, but I just prefer to specialise in one area and be, good at that rather than trying to be good at 101, different things, because they've all got their own particular information and bits that you need to know. So I think that's what my point of difference is I don't try to be everything for everybody. I just specialise in my, particular area and just stay, in that lane.
Good on you. And I think that would be a thought that might go through a lot of startups and entrepreneurs. We got hundreds of things that we can get involved in, but then what you're saying is, like, instead of focusing on 100 different things, focus on one thing and do do the best you can with that one thing. And hopefully, as you become a master of that, then if you're interested, you could actually get into other spaces as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Doreen. So Doreen, moving on to the next question.
Yes.
Can you please share about your second startup, which is Elevate Your Costs? I think an interesting name for a business. What lessons have you brought forth from your experience in running Doreen Brown Consulting into your new venture, which is Elevate Your Costs?
Yeah, so the message behind Elevate Your Cause is literally what the name suggests. So it's giving more visibility and increasing your visibility for your cause. Like if you're running a not-for-profit organisation, if you're running a charity, if you're running a social enterprise, those are really important things in our community. And, you know, we really can't survive without those different causes and things being presented to us. So there's over, I think, 57 different organisations and charities that provide, you know, this particular area that has a purpose behind what they're doing. So it's not just about, you know, business, making money, but it's about making an impact and making a difference in our world. As you know, I guess corny as that sounds, but they're doing something with purpose, not just, you know, running a business. And the reason why I guess Elevate Your Cause came to be is because it was naturally gravitating towards me. So I would have, you know, people from organisations, social enterprises, charities coming to me and saying, can you please help us with our online visibility, because we need some guidance and we need a roadmap to really understand what it is that we can do to elevate our purpose, our cause and our message and put it out there into the community and into the world. So whilst it's a separate arm, there are some similarities between Doreen Brown Consulting and Elevate Your Cause in that it's still, you know, SEO and online specific, but obviously it's catering to a different sector that, you know, have different needs and different purpose in relation to what it is that they're trying to do and achieve as well. Some of the lessons, I guess, that I have transferred from Doreen Brown Consulting to Elevate Your Cause is being very mindful and being, I guess, very particular in who I work with. So I'm not necessarily interested, and this sounds a bit strange, but I'm not actually interested in just making lots and lots of money. I want to make sure that the people I'm working with, that we're working together as a team. So some of those lessons that I learned with Doreen Brown Consulting was to really select and choose who you work with quite carefully, and to make sure that you're on the same page, because when you're working together, you should be working side by side. Whether you're the provider of the service or whether you're receiving the service, you know, no one should be standing behind you or in front of you or above you. You should be really working together side by side. And that's very important to me in both of my arms of my business, because it's, you know, something you're collaborating, you're doing together to achieve a common goal. And that might be getting more visibility for your business or for your cause. But I think those relationships are really, you know, you've got to be really careful as to who you work with, to make sure that you're on the same page with that as well.
Good on you, Doreen. I think you've drawn on a very important point, especially if you're a startup or you know, a business. You know, getting the right team with you and around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as you said, like, it could be the businesses that you choose to engage with.
Yes.
It could be the people you hire. And listen, until everyone is on the same page, you know, it kind
Yes.
of disrupts the end goal or the vision that you have. And I think that's a very important point that you've shared. Thank you.
Welcome.
And Doreen, moving on to the next question, could you please share about the highs in your businesses? So Doreen Brown Consulting and Elevate Your Costs. And for you personally, before the coronavirus pandemic hit the world.
Yeah, so some of the highs, I guess it's being able to see my business grow in the way that I wanted it to. So I never started out wanting to grow my business and scale my business. Okay. I'm not necessarily looking to build teams of people. I'm not looking to outsource. I really wanted to develop and build a brand, which is more based around that one-on-one relationship, with my clients, where they come through the door, they get to work with me, they get to stay working with me rather than moving on to someone else who will then, look after them. So I think that's been a really important highlight, is that I've stuck to my main mission and my main goal, which is to work with small business owners one-on-one, and make sure that relationship, is maintained throughout the time that we are working together. And that's the same with, Elevate Your Cause as well. If you decide to do consulting services with me for that, you get me. So, you're getting that support, that information, and, the service directly from myself, not from someone else.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you for sharing that point. Thank you. Moving on to the next one. When the pandemic hit Australia, what were the steps you took to mitigate its effect on your businesses?
I guess I can say that I'm quite fortunate in that what I do can be done from anywhere. Mm-hmm. So you and I are both located in Wollongong, which is great, but I can support clients nationally or internationally. So it didn't really have an impact based on closing my office door or anything like that. It was more that small businesses were really struggling with budgets. Right. And because they had to close their own businesses down, it meant that they couldn't necessarily invest in someone like me to help them with their SEO efforts. So I guess the way in which my business changed during the COVID-19 time was that a lot of what I was doing started to move into different sections and areas. So instead of just doing done-for-you services, I was finding myself doing more training, webinars, consulting, and doing things online via Zoom, as we are today, in order to support, small business owners with what it is that they were, going through. But it's really about, diversifying your offerings. So if you're not doing training, maybe that's something, you can consider, because many people and their budgets are very, small at the moment. So they can afford to do a training session or a webinar, but they may not afford to do a whole campaign with you. And that's, I guess, where my, business changed a little bit. Like, I was doing training and workshops and consulting, but it's now more obviously online, which also reduces the location barrier. So I've been able to work with clients now in New Zealand, in the USA, because there's no barrier to the online world. So I think it's looking at it as an opportunity to see what it is that you're doing and how can you meet the needs of your audience and your customers just in a different medium or in a different way.
Good on you. And I think that's very encouraging, especially because we can leverage our presence online, as you said, Zoom or Skype or whatever medium, and we can reach people globally. That in a way, when it comes to your business, it actually, you could say, as you said, coronavirus did shrink the budgets of a lot of businesses. And you said you diversified, you started doing seminars and stuff. So, giving people education through this tough time. So I think that's great, Doreen. And you've been very agile and flexible with your offerings and your business. So that's really encouraging.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
And Doreen, moving forward, what are your plans for your business or businesses?
Yeah, so I still would love to see it, continue to grow. And as mentioned, not so much scale, but continue to work with the right, businesses and organizations and continue to support them. One of the recent things that I've also done is I've launched a podcast for small business owners. Mm-hmm. And, quite similar to our conversation today, but it's not just me on there talking, it's actually interviewing other business owners, because I think we need to understand that it's not always unicorns and rainbows when you run your own business. There are things that happen, there are experiences that you have, and they're not all going to be positive. So what I really want to do as part of, I guess, my businesses is, also support those who are looking to start a business or are running a business and are feeling a bit isolated and feeling like they're on that roller coaster and whether they should be doing this or maybe not. And just having some of those real conversations with people and sharing those real life and business experiences so that we don't feel so isolated and alone, because as business owners, most of the time it is us running the whole show. So there needs to be that, support network and people around us that really understand what it's like to genuinely, run your own business, because it's not all, always going to be, positive and happy all the time. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very encouraging, Doreen. Thank you. Doreen, if you look back to the time from when Doreen Brown Consulting commenced operations, what would you have done differently and why? Was there something, that you learned through this process of 3 or 4 years of your business journey that, when you look at in hindsight, you would have done differently?
I think hindsight is a great thing. Mm-hmm. And when I look back, my journey with starting my business was not an easy one. It wasn't a smooth ride, but I'm very grateful for that, because I learned so many more lessons from what didn't go right than what did go right. So when I launched my own business, I started with nothing. I didn't have a budget. I didn't have clients. I was working independently. So I had to literally work it out, I felt, on my own. But through that came so many lessons that it's made me stronger. And particularly through a time like COVID-19, I didn't feel like I was necessarily, on the back foot, because when I started with nothing. So even if, touch wood, if that's all taken away, you still know how to come back up to the surface if you've reached, the bottom of the ocean. There are things that you learn and there are things that you can do to help you swim back up to the top. So, there are lots of lessons that I've learned, throughout that process. And I think, touching on what we said before, just picking the right people to surround yourself with is so important, because on the days when you're not doing so well, you are going to need that help and support. And building a business, even if it's your own business, you're actually not doing it on your own. There are people that you're working with, there are people you're collaborating with, and all of these things help you to run and build your business. So if you're going to sit on an island and think that, I'm just going to sit here and do this all on my own and build this, great big thing, it doesn't work that way. It is your own business, but it's still, created and made up of all of those different relationships and associations and collaborations that you have. And it's those things that are going to help you, continue to move forward as well. So definitely lots of lessons, but that would be the main one. Be really choosy with who you surround yourself with, and make sure it's in line with your own vision and your own beliefs. So if something doesn't sit quite right, it's okay to say, you're not my person and I don't, want to, continue doing, work or collaborating or business, with you.
Good on you, Doreen. And I think you've actually answered the next question as well. So,
did I?
Which was basically, what life and business lessons that you would like to share with someone who's planning to start a venture or business or service similar to yours in Australia. And I think you said, again, you came back to the point that you mentioned earlier, that is choosing your team, choosing the clients you work with. Because as you said, when you go through tough times, it might be those clients who ring you up and, help you to move on, you know what I mean? It could be,
Absolutely.
I saw a photo where someone sent you flowers recently. So it could be those simple, those gestures that actually strengthen you and keep you going. You know what I mean?
They do. Yeah, and you have to love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love what you do and you're just basing it around a dollar sign, it's not going to last very long. So you have to want to wake up each day and love exactly what it is that you're doing, because if you're just focusing on, the dollar signs, you can't last doing that, and it comes through in everything that you do. So whether you're talking to clients, whether you're talking to prospects, whether you're posting on social media, whether you're writing an article or a blog, people see through when it's fake and when it's not real. Whereas if you're being genuine and you're being true to what it is that you love to do, that's going to come through in anything that you share, with the rest of the world as well. So that's probably the other main thing that I would recommend a startup or a small business. You have to love what it is that you're doing. Don't just look at the figures, because it won't be enough to sustain your business.
Good on you. So you need to be passionate about what you're doing and be honest with whatever you're doing. That's a great point, Doreen. And are you still maintaining the 5 stars on Google? I think the last time I checked, it was probably 30 reviews.
Yes, I'm very proud to say that I am. And all of my reviews are from genuine clients, customers, people who've come to my workshops, and they keep me going. So their reviews and feedback definitely boost you up on the days where you're not feeling so great, or something not so good has happened, to look back on some of that and to know that you've really made a difference for other people, their businesses, which then impacts their life, is definitely something that helps me and keeps me motivated and going in my business.
Good on you, Doreen. So I'm really encouraged by your business journey. Thank you for sharing those important points. And I wish you the very best in all that you're going to do into the future.
Thank you, and same to you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Doreen. All the best, mate.
Thanks.